Thank you, Benny. And I don't know if Mike, Sandy, or Marvin are still in the room. Their feet will not be on the floor for the next 6 months. This is a very special and a very rare induction for a most remarkable individual. It was humbling to be asked to do it. I hope my words touch you the way they affected me while preparing my presentation. My remarks are being done with respect, honor, and love. Before I continue, I want everyone to know I promised myself I would not get emotional tonight. Thank you, Sandy. Sometimes I can't keep my promises. Faith, family, friends, community, and community service. Those words are the essence of this individual. Born, schooled, and raised in a Midwestern town, our inductee returned to that hometown after being away for family military service. A dairy building was bought and converted into an auction house where many thousands of auctions were and still are being conducted. Here's some of the story on how they got there. Think about the way each of you eased your way into this profession. Did your high school guidance counselor say, "Hey kid, you can count, graduate and go to auction school"? I think not. Unless you're a multi-generational auctioneer, the light bulb had to go off in your head a different way. Isn't anyone who went to radiological technology school a perfect candidate to become an auctioneer? That's what they did before getting bit by the bug. And what a bite that was. It happened on the first day of a 2-day auction. There was only one bid caller. The lunch wagon was getting ready to go. And our inductee volunteered to give that auctioneer a break. He gladly took it, and the first items to cross the block and get sold by our new bid caller were paint cans. It was the success of that single step that led to the Worldwide College of Auctioneering in Mason City. Let me introduce you to just some accomplishments, in no particular order, except one of the most important first, a lover of ice cream. A finalist at the State Fair and many other bid calling contests, in their home state Hall of Fame, a 15-year editor for their state association publication, a former NAF trustee, state association treasurer, secretary, and director, 4 children, 8 grandchildren, an IAC first runner-up, a licensed motor vehicle and FFL dealer, and a bankruptcy court auctioneer, a church retreat and church leader who also went on mission trips. Did I mention ice cream? It might also help to know that the local Dairy Queen is closed from late October until mid-April. Snow machine and dog sled racing and ice fishing are very important. And there are no potholes in our inductees' hometown. They are filled with snow most of the year. For those of you who are still scratching your head about who this is, let me focus in some more. I first met our inductee in 1986. I was in Class 3 at CAI, and she was in Class 1. A lifetime friendship was formed between us right there at Indiana University. For everyone who has had the CAI bonding experience, you know exactly what I mean. She ran for the Auction Marketing Institute Board of Governors after graduating and was the only person in the history of CAI and AMI to be elected to 2 consecutive 3-year terms. Her service to CAI was immeasurable, and she was always willing to take on the hard, unpopular jobs. She spent most of those years on the Admissions Review Committee, vetting candidate eligibility, and reading piles of auction summary reports. The dedication and passion for an industry she loves so very much is very rare. She also earned her GPPA and CES and BAS designations along the way. In late 2002, long after she had completed her board service, AMI had a situation and we really, really needed her help. The Board of Governors found out that we would soon be running CAI Week with no outside assistance. Part of the scramble was a need for volunteers to be advisors for Class 1, 2, and 3. It is a simple process today. It was actually complicated back then. As the CAI committee chairman, I was tasked to find just the right individuals. I called her to explain the situation and what the Institute needed. As an advisor that year, you had to show up in Bloomington the Friday before CAI Week. You had to stay until the following Friday. I could guarantee long days and lots of meetings before and after classes. All I could promise was hard work, a room, and lunch at 11:30. No pay, no transportation reimbursement, no other meals, and nothing else until we knew what the finances were after CAI week was all over. I finished talking, and with no questions and no hesitation, she said, "I'm in. What do you want me to do today?" Talk about dedication and commitment. I said, "What about Bob, Damien, and Michelle?" She said, "Bob, Damien, and Michelle who? I'm going to Nick's." If you've never been to CAI, you might not know. Nick's is an English pub that has probably seen hundreds of millions of dollars of deals put together over copious pitchers of beer since the charter class in 1976. Let me add, the common goal was to save CAI, and along with the other class advisors that year, Randy Wells and Dee Byers, she did. Pat had a sense of humor all auctioneers would understand. She was subtle about it, but enjoyed a good joke. When she told one, she had that little smile. She had that sparkle in her eyes, and she had an infectious chuckle. I have an image of her asking me if I knew the universe was still expanding. Then she laughed and said, "That should ease the traffic problems." You could never be anything but happy when you were in her presence. You could not do the things she did for NAA, NAF, CAI, or the Wisconsin Auctioneers Association without the support of an entire family. They always filled in the gap when she was away. It must be easier when your husband, your son, and your daughter-in-law have 8 designations between them. No matter where she was, Pat went to Mass every week. I remember most of us being in an auctioneer in the courts class together. She was on the witness stand being cross-examined by an attorney, a real attorney, who was quite methodical in their questioning. With ice water in her veins, Pat won the case by giving answers that seemed to send that attorney back to their first year of law school. Our Indiana Superior Court judge was impressed by how cool she was under fire. It was that ice water that got her through the curveball our good Lord sent her way just a few years later. Valentine's Day 2007 was tough. That's when Pat was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer and given about 4 weeks to live without treatment. But tough became her middle name. Her next grandchild was due in September, 7 months later. Pat's plan was to greet her grandson into the world. Hi, Logan. After this accomplishment, she kept refocusing by settling new milestone goals. Christmas was coming. Her March birthday was next. Then another grandchild was on the way. She met that little girl, too. Maddie was sound asleep when I came up here, but hi, Maddie, if you're awake. And finally, just 1 week after the birth was her and Bob's 41st wedding anniversary. They celebrated it together. Then, almost 2 full years after the initial diagnosis, we lost Pat the very next day. She showed all of us what toughness and true grit was. Because of her mom, and the entire family, they are closing in on raising $100,000 for St. Jude. The CAI Class 2 report is named after her. This great lady spent 18 different years at CAI Week. She was a true believer in education for herself and others. Pat addressed an overflow crowd at her own benefit auction dedicated to help pay for her treatments. She said, "When eating ice cream, savor the flavor, but savor and remember those you are sharing the ice cream with even more." Ice cream and those words of wisdom have become a part of their family tradition. She's in heaven now. She's standing right next to her granddaughter, Catherine. I told you, get ready. They're holding hands, and they're looking at all of us tonight with a great big Green Bay Packers thumbs up and cheesehead smiles. If you knew her, you know the love you felt for her and the love she felt for you. If you ever served with Pat Massart on any board, any committee, if she was your advisor at CAI, if you've won the Class 2 award, if you were in her CAI or any other designation class, or if you just knew her and loved her, could you please stand for a moment? Look around, ladies and gentlemen. This is the lasting impact she has had on all of us. At the reception tonight, let her family know what she meant to you. And thank you so much for standing and showing us, and each of you being a part of this. I wish I could be at a conference and show where after the picnic that opens this event every year on Tuesday night, I could be walking behind Bob and Pat on the way back to our hotel and see them holding hands. I wish after we leave this room tonight, I could be in the hall and I could see Pat and her grandchildren playing together. And I wish we could have our CAI committee get back together, the committee that saved the Institute, along with Pat, and we could go out to dinner, have a good steak, and share a bottle of wine. But I can't. I am so proud to present only the second posthumous Hall of Fame award. From Green Bay, Wisconsin, please welcome one of the truly great people to have graced this earth, Patricia Massart. In recognition of what you've done for all of us, you're in the Auctioneers Hall of Fame. There are a whole slew of Massarts here tonight. If anyone is still awake, we would like you to come up. Bob, I see you coming up and leading the charge. Damien and the kids, hi Michelle, come on down.
I knew this was coming, and I have a few notes. I won't keep you long. Can you all hear in the back? That's one thing Pat always insisted, that everybody hear what was going on at an auction, so I want to make sure everybody hears this. Fellow auctioneers, honored guests and friends, thank you for this opportunity and this honor in bringing the highlights of a past friend and leader in the auction profession. Pat and I were partners for life for 41 years. After a 7-year hitch as a Navy pilot, Pat and I started from scratch the auction business that we now run, and that Damien and his wife Michelle are taking over. And Pat said regarding Michelle, if we had to pick a daughter-in-law, we couldn't have picked a better one. So that's quite an endorsement of the next generation taking over our business. And Damien is here. Michelle, Maddie Moo is the last grandchild that Pat saw. She was born in about 3-4 days before Pat passed away. Logan is down here. Taylor Rose is standing up there holding her brother up, and then Jacob is right there. And there's some special people I'd like to, especially a special one. Pat was a soft heart for St. Jude's Children's Hospital, because we started doing St. Jude auctions in 1997, and after that first auction, we found a St. Jude auction fairy. That's what we call this lady. Pat's mother, she's going to be, I think I'll get this right, 86 next month. Come here once. This gal goes out and solicits things for our St. Jude auction. If it wouldn't be for her, there wouldn't be a St. Jude auction. She takes the van around town and she gets the stuff. She brings it in, and she's going to be 86, so that's quite a tribute. And she talks Pat's dad, Louie, into driving the van once in a while. And Louie, come over here. He just had a birthday. 88 years old. He got out of the hospital last week. he had an infection in his bloodstream, and he's back to solid ground now, except he doesn't like to fly. So we all say a little prayer for him because he's got to get home on the plane tomorrow. Okay. Pat, you heard about being an evangelist this morning with or yesterday morning with our opening speaker. Well, Pat was an evangelist for the auction method of marketing. She preached wherever possible about striving to become a better at your trade and by attending CAI and the Auction Marketing Institute courses and the seminars and workshops by the National Auctioneers Association. Pat not only preached the auction gospel, she also lived the real gospel. As St. Francis said, go forth and preach the gospel and sometimes say words. Pat had a servant's heart. Do good and don't worry about who gets the credit. She had a smile that assured you she was sincere, as the eye is a view into our soul, a window into our soul, so the smile is a reflection of what is in our heart. And the last thing I want to leave you with, before Damien has got a special thing he wants to honor his mother with. After Pat was diagnosed with a fatal disease, she thanked the Lord every day that it was her that was suffering and that she knew where she was going and she was ready to go. And she said, live in the moment. And all of us, life is terminal. We don't know when it's coming or when it'll happen, but someday we're going to be called out of this life into another one. And we always think about the good things that we have here, and we don't want to leave it. But when I saw the peace in her eyes, I think the next stop is going to be better than this. So just remember, live in the moment, cherish the moment, cherish the people you have around you, your family and friends. And now Damien has got a little thing to do here for you. Thank you.
Jacob over here is 8. That's when I started coming to conventions, when I was 8. So I'm doing the math. I went away to the Navy for a few years. So I think this is my 26th convention. In the 26 conventions I've been to, what I'm about to do, I don't think I've ever seen happen, so you might think it's kind of strange, but that's all right. At the National Auctioneers Foundation online auction, which was January, give or take, I went on the catalog and I saw a baseball. So I looked at it, and it's autographed by my mother, Pat Massart. So I thought that was kind of neat. So I thought, who's going to want a Pat Massart ball? So I get on there and I start bidding. Well, apparently a few people wanted a Pat Massart ball. So after a few dollars later, I bought the Pat Massart ball. I made arrangements for shipping with David Helmer, who had the ball. I called him up, and he said, oh, you're Damien Massart. Pat was your mother? I said, yeah. He said, well, do you want 2 balls? I said, well, sure. So I bought 1 ball, and I got 2. So if it's all right with the president and all right with you, being she was an advocate for raising, as you heard, almost $100,000 for St. Jude, I would like to sell this ball autographed by my mother right here. I don't know if you can zoom in on that. You hold that. Pat Massart autographed baseball, which is kind of it's not a gavel or anything auction related, it's a baseball. So if I could get a few lights in the room, we'll sell newly inducted 2012 NAA Hall of Famer, with all proceeds going to St. Jude's. All right? I don't care if it brings $10 or $100. We're going to have the auction right now. And what do you go? 100 and $100 quarter now half, 150, but I'm 175, 2 and 2 there, quarter, 2 and a quarter, half, 250, 275, 3 and a half, 4 and a half, 5 here, 5 and a half, but it goes $600, $700, $800, 8, but about 800 now 9 and 9, but about 9. Did you do it? $900, 9 now 1 and 1,000, $1,100, 11, but about 11, 12, but about 12, 13. And 13, but about $1,400 now. And 14 there. 15, thank you. 14, 15, now 16. And 1,700, 17, but about 17, $1,700, 18. Now 2, 21, and 21, but about 1. Now 2, 22, but about 22, 2,200, and 3 to buy on 3, 23, but about 23. 2 here, left side, 23. And I should tell you that's way more than I paid. 2,300. I'm 2,200 here, right? Is that right? With Mr. Mike Jones, is that correct? 2,200. Now 3, 23. Now 4, and 24. But about 4. Now 5, 25. But about 25. 25. Now 6, and 26. But about 7, 27. But about 7, $2,700 now, and 27. But about 7, $2,700 now 8, and 8 to buy 8. But about 8. Now 9, 29. But about 9, 2 9. Even money, $3,000 1. But about 1, and 31. But about 1, 31. But about 1, 31. Now 2. And hit a bomb 2, but about 3, and 33, but about 3, 3,300, and 33. Now 4, 34, but about 4, and find a bomb 5, but about 35. Now 6, and $3,600, 7, but about $7 now. $3,700 now 8, but about $8 now. 38, 9 to buy. 39, but about 9, 39. 4,000, 4,001, and 41, but about 1, 41 to buy them. 4,100. I thank you, Mr. Kiko. Is that right? Kiko's out here, Mr. That was Mrs. Kiko. Make no mistake, that was Mrs. Kiko, but we're going to sell it right here to Mr. Mike Jones, also 2012 Hall of Fame inductee. Thank you.
I have one more official task. I need to present the plaque and the pin. I'm going to pin Bob. Actually, I'm going to hand Bob the pin. To the entire Massart family, presented to Patricia Pat Massart, Green Bay, Wisconsin, in recognition and appreciation of her outstanding contribution to the profession of auctioneering and the National Auctioneers Association as the 2012 Hall of Fame Award recipient.
Just one word before I pass on here. That baseball brought wonderful money, and it's the auction method that did it, and you're giving hearts. And Pat is smiling right now. So remember, live in the moment and keep your education tools sharp.